All right, so thank you all for coming. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. And I want to welcome all the members of the public, staff, and committee members. I think we know each other. I don't see anybody new on here. So I'm going to go ahead and just skip the intros and go right into the discussion of the proposed redraft of resolution. This is the third draft, and we had a great discussion, and I included the changes requested by this committee and the public into the latest third draft. As you can see there, the green highlight was what we approved last time. So there's nothing to vote on on those sections. But Jim, if you wouldn't mind scrolling to the second page, the only part that we need to approve now is that in yellow. And I returned section 1 back to its proper place. And I removed all the other sections that I had suggested based on feedback. I also made changes to the wording of section 1 to include what we discussed last time, to hopefully quell the concerns about placing emphasis on one area of the county over another. Even though this committee was formed for a specific purpose, to protect the agricultural, rural, and natural areas. So with staff suggesting a countywide land use plan, the scope of our committee has been broadened, but the intent of the modification was to include the protection language so that we could stay true to our original purpose, which formed this committee by way of the full board's authorization last October. So therefore, the only part of the resolution to approve is this section 1. Mayor Hayes, it's you and I. Cara is stuck in court, but together we make a quorum. Okay. So we can vote on this if you are happy with it. And upon voting it, we will then send it to the full board. I'm hoping Eric can include it in the February meeting this month. So then it goes to the full board for their final approval. Can you read that language? Can you see that, Mayor Hayes?
I can, Christy. Section would read the initiation of a countywide land use plan encompassing all unincorporated areas to include the protection of agricultural, rural, and natural areas, and then goes on is hereby recommended by the Pulaski County Planning Board.
Yes. Okay. Do you have any problems, modifications? Do you like that?
Well, I mean, it's okay with me. The devil is always in the details, and so as we go through this, I think the interrelationship among the areas that we don't have jurisdiction for, i.e., the cities that within the city limits of cities, that's the only thing that I'm sure that can be added in the discussion when we come into it, because I know that I mean, I know we only have jurisdiction for the unincorporated areas, but at the same time, that jurisdiction to me ought to try to take into consideration what those incorporated areas are doing. But we can do that in the discussion. Other than that comment, I'm fine with it.
All right. As I understand, the ETJs would be in the unincorporated area. So it's all included. Okay.
Madam, I would like to maybe pose this as something for consideration. Might consider to say this: the initiation of a countywide land use plan process encompassing all unincorporated areas outside extraterritorial planning jurisdictions of municipalities to include, because otherwise we'll be trying to hire somebody to review the land use inside somebody else's jurisdiction. You say?
Okay,
yeah, I agree with that, Van, but
Pulaski County, we don't want to do.
Excuse me, Madam Chairman. can I make a comment?
Okay, yes, yes.
I agree with you there, except didn't you say that there
And
were
jurisdictions and to and or to create an intersection. I may be cut out.
I think I think the audio and video is delayed. Go ahead, Mayor Hayes, with what you wanted to say.
Okay, thank you. Van, I agree with that, but didn't you say that there were several of us, of our incorporated cities that aren't exercising extraterritorial jurisdiction?
I think we might have dropped
Van?
Van.
Okay,
Mayor Hayes, I can answer that.
okay,
Both Little Rock and North Little Rock actively enforce their ETJ. The cities of Sherwood, Jacksonville, Wrightsville, less so, but they still have an ETJ on the books. So we would have to work that out as we go forward with the land use process. But yeah, all of them pretty much do enforce their ETJ in some shape, form, or fashion.
okay. All right, well then that's, I agree with Van then on adding that portion, because we don't want to get into a conflicting situation with cities who by law have the ability to exercise extraterritorial jurisdiction, and then we get into a contest with them. So I think either that or coordinate, with cities to ensure no conflict in what they have. Maybe it'd be easier just to do bans.
I would like to know if the members of the public have any input to that.
I
Comment.
think that is Kathy Wells here. And I do think that is an important point. But I would raise the question about how we address the importance of achieving cooperation and coordination as cities apply their ETJ policies. As we know, the expectation is these cities will grow in size and annex more property into their city limits. And that means the unincorporated areas of the county in the decades to come will be less. So what we seek is one, protection, but two, orderly growth. One of the issues that has prompted this whole effort, if you'll recall, is a leapfrog proposal for a subdivision. And that's very much what ETJs in Little Rock, in my observation, seek to regulate. So I'd just like to get it on the record that we are interested in regulating leapfrog protections, and obviously don't need to put that language in this resolution. But I would ask if the county staff thinks the phrase "we have before us" encompasses my concerns.
Mr. McClendon, do you have?
Can you hear me? I had to go off of the laptop and on my phone. Can you hear me or see me?
Yes, we can do both.
Well, okay, excellent. The whole point of hiring a consultant will be to develop to study the land use. That was the other part, is we don't want to be studying the land use inside the city's extraterritorial planning jurisdiction if we're not going to regulate it, and we don't want to pay for having that study done. We want to study everything outside of it and then have a land use plan based on it. And as a part of that discussion and going through the public hearing process, if there are issues like that are of concern to the public or anybody else, we'll be able to express them and modify the plan accordingly. And ultimately, once we won't, until we have something finalized and agreed upon, generally speaking, there won't be a place. It won't be the time yet to take it to the quorum court for their adoption. You see,
Yes,
I mean,
that
it's gonna
was-
go, it'll be before the planning board, and then the planning board will be saying, yeah, we've had the public hearings and we have had a study and we've got a plan that we're generally agreed to and satisfied with, and we're forwarding that to the quorum court, and then they'll review whatever it is we've done and make their decision accordingly.
Yes, that's true. I just didn't want this to be a silo effect with no references to or attempts to communicate with folks regulating the ETJs.
No, it won't be that way, because the plan that we have will intersect and interface with the plans that the municipalities have. So our consultants will take that into consideration when we're going through that process. We'll be able to see how they interface, intersect.
Oh,
So,
good.
Mr. McClendon,
Thank you.
thank you,
Yes.
Kathy. If we leave that language out, then wouldn't we have the flexibility to include that if we needed to? And also, can't we set the scope with the consultant and say, we don't want you to touch the ETJ right now, or until we're ready for them to?
I don't think we need to be telling them any of that at all. I think we need to be, as a part of it, when we review the consultants, we'll be going through that. And that's exactly what we'll tell them. I think we ought to be very specific about this, because we want the quorum court to understand how it's working. And we don't want to pay the consultants for doing something they don't have to do. You see what I'm saying? If we make it clear in our resolution, and that the quorum court makes clear in terms of how they're going to be contracted and hired, then we won't have any doubt about how that's going to work. You see what I'm saying? It's
Okay.
very, we don't want to be studying something and planning something that it's not our jurisdiction and we don't have primacy over. What we do want to do is study everything and how it interfaces and interrelates to their plans in their jurisdictions, because it's clear that the state has allowed them to have primacy in extraterritorial planning jurisdictions. So we want to take theirs into consideration, and we want to have ours interface with theirs, but we don't really have something that we can tell them to do. We can try to influence what they do, and we do that quite often, or we make comments on things, and we've got a pretty good working relationship with them as it is. But I think we just need to make clear what it is we're studying and planning for, you know?
So we could certainly suggest things, as you said, in the ETJ as part of the study, and say, we recommend this for the ETJ, and they can accept it or not. But that's what you're saying, is that the consultant will take the ETJ into consideration?
Correct. And so the public will have ample opportunities through this process to comment, because there'll be maps and plans and public hearings. And when you look at it, you'll see they'll be clear where a city's extraterritorial planning jurisdiction is, and what kind of zoning they have, or what kind of regulations they have, or what the land use is, and what ours are.
Let me interrupt if I could just a second. So, Madam Chair, could I ask Dan to repeat his amending language? I'd like to move for its adoption, and that way, we could discuss it in a parliamentary way.
Okay,
right.
well, as I understand, however, with small boards, we don't have to make a motion to have a discussion. I read that in the Robert's rules.
Okay. All right.
Y'all can challenge me on that.
I defer to Robert's rules.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess what I'm thinking is that, if I kind of agree with Dan's language, that, we don't really lose anything by, that extraterritorial, and it makes it clear that we're deferring to the cities in their jurisdiction. But however, we do want to have communication and helping the planning, we'll say, the planning consultant to know that we do want communication between, other jurisdictions and their extraterritorial jurisdiction also. So that's why I think that, it doesn't hurt anything. I don't see. Christy, do you?
No, I was just trying to figure it out. I'm trying to understand it, I guess. And I didn't want to pigeonhole the group into a process that that we could have expanded. Although I'm fine with, our narrow scope initially, and now it's been broadened. So I think that to make it more specific and not specify the ETJ, although it sounds like we can still have some influence over that. So that sounds good.
Madam
Mr.
Chairman,
McClin- Yes, Jim.
maybe just striking the word all out of the sentence there leaves it ambiguous enough that we can proceed with it.
Okay, let's see. So it would say the initiation of a countywide land use plan process encompassing unincorporated areas to include the protection of blah, blah, blah. Okay, I like that. That's
Probably
more
makes it
simple.
simpler. That makes it
Yeah.
simpler.
Yeah, that works. We can do that.
I like that. What about you, Mayor Hayes?
What's this, encompassing unincorporated, well, that'll work. Okay.
Well, would you like to make or you want me to make the motion, or you want to make the motion?
Well, look, by unanimous consent, how's that sound?
Okay.
Good for you, Mayor Hayes.
So I think I'll go ahead and make that change. Or did you want to, Mr. McClendon, and then send that on to Eric to be included in the February?
Well, you can go ahead and make the change to it, send it to me, and then
Okay.
I'll forward it to him to forward to the board, and we'll see if we can get it on the agenda for
Okay.
February.
All right. Great. So thank you for that. The last thing I wanted to ask Mr. McClendon was, could you just quickly step us through what happens next with the resolution? I know you've already done that before, but I just would like to get it again. And
Okay.
also
Well, what's
the-
gonna the process, you mean?
Yes, and also if the full board approves this resolution, will it require a separate public hearing like the notification changes are going to require, or will it not, since it's not changing code?
What I would say is going to happen if we get this, get it in its final form as proposed by the subcommittee, and the chairman agrees to put it on the agenda, then it will go to the full planning board at the February 20, whatever it is, meeting, the 25th. Is that what it is?
Second, I
22nd.
believe.
Yeah, 22nd, whatever the meeting date is. It'll go to them, and the board can have it as a discussion item. And if it's generally agreed upon by the board that this looks like something they want to do and go forward with, then we'll set a public hearing for that to be considered and voted on in the March meeting. And once we have hold the public hearing and the board listens to what they've got to listen to and discusses what they have to discuss, they can vote on it at that point. And if they vote to approve it, then it'll be forwarded on to the quorum court, probably for their April agenda.
Okay.
And then, but it's pretty tight timeline, but we can do it if there's not any significant changes after that point in the public hearing. Is everything satisfied for that? We'll get it to the coordinator for the quorum court, and there'll have to be a sponsor for it from one of the 15 justices of the peace. Somebody will have to. Hopefully it'll be peaceful anyway. So one of them or more will have to endorse it and sponsor it for their April meeting before the quorum court. And they'll have to decide whether they want to talk about it and hold another public hearing, or however they want to proceed. That's their call at that point.
Okay. And I know don't they have 2 meetings a month?
Well, they have committees. They have a finance committee and another agenda committee or something. And so they'll listen to it and decide, make some decision on it, I guess, if it's sponsored and it gets on their agenda, and then they will have it their committee, and then they'll decide what they want to do with it at the committee, or the committee's recommendation will be made public to the full quorum court when it gets to that point at the April meeting.
Okay, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anyone have any questions, the public or Mayor Hayes? About any of
Not
that?
at all. I'm okay.
All right. Any members of the public want to make a comment about anything?
No, thank you. Please proceed.
All right. Well then, thanks, everybody. Go out and enjoy some snow, and
There you go.
I
Yeah.
move that we adjourn.
All right.
Well, by unanimous consent, we'll do that too.
I like
All
that.
right.
And I
All
think, I think now I'm gonna call Kathy Wells Miss Public from now on. Glad to see you, Kathy.
Good to
All
see
right,
you. guys.
meeting adjourned. Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Bye. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Stay
You
safe.
too. Thank you.
Thanks, Christy.
Thank you.